Hello, everyone. My name is Zefeng You. I'm the director of Sailing for More Maritime Museum in China. I know it's a long day, but I try to keep it short. I believe all of you today have enjoyed our program today. I personally enjoyed much about our lunch session, 50 years anniversary celebration. Great memories and touch moments. I can definitely receive inspirations from the group of people on this stage earlier. A lot of them joined ICMM even earlier than before I was born. So today I finally found another reason that I joined ICMM. I think one of the purposes for me to participate, maybe is to lower the average age. So please recommend more young delegates for our next conference. Thank you. So 50 years, how extraordinary. But what we are sharing next today is much older than 50 years, not even 500 years. It's actually about 5,000 years. Yes, it's about 5,000 years. Matthew, what kind of organization we are? Okay, so but before our next presenter, I would like to help Christian to introduce our speaker, who is Vincent, the National Maritime Museum in New Zealand. Welcome to the stage, Vincent.
Thanks, Zefeng, and I have to say it's a great sense of relief that I'm joining you after the break rather than before it. And I won't forget Richard, that slot, if I ever get the opportunity to return the favour. It's a true Anzac spirit. I think there's a little bit of cross-Tasman rivalry, but I got away with it anyway. So look, thank you very much. Kia ora koutou, and my own warm greetings to you all. It's a true pleasure to be with you. It's been great being out of New Zealand for a change, and I'm really looking forward to sharing the remarkable story of Gerry Clark, who's really a true citizen scientist and someone through his work who has left the New Zealand Maritime Museum and the world a remarkable legacy. And I've been reflecting through this morning's and this afternoon's presentations on our theme of today, and they've very much been in the macro. And I think often when we talk about these topics, we think to ourselves, what can one person do to have an effect on these kind of things? And I think you'll see through the story of Gerry Clark exactly what that kind of thing can be. So while I'll be speaking principally about Gerry and his work as an ornithologist and an explorer, before I begin in earnest, I'd like to touch briefly on the museological aspects that have made this possible. I think we all have a collective focus through our sector on the digitization of our collections and the increased access that this makes possible, both to casual visitors and to professional researchers alike, and gives all of our institutions the opportunity for a real global reach. And I just need to acknowledge the principal authors and researchers behind this collection and presentation: Nick Keenley-Side, Philippa Price, Heidi Schlumpf, Andrew Hales, and Catherine Meaton, on whose behalf I'm really speaking today, as well as Gerry's daughter, Elsa, who donated his collection to the museum. Gerry Clark was an amateur ornithologist, explorer, ship's captain, and boat builder. His opening words in his book of the Torore expedition describe him well. I love the sea, I love birds, I love adventure. In what better way could I indulge myself in these latter years of my life than to undertake an expedition in the great Southern Ocean? This is the story of one man's dedication, intelligence, and bravery, and how it significantly contributed to the Southern Ocean's environmental science and the ability to measure climate change in this region. Working with ornithologists from around the world, he planned studies of the seabird populations of the Southern Ocean, using them as a bellwether for the health of those ecological systems. For over 3 years, he and his volunteer crew members explored one of the most forbidding coastlines, often in terrible weather, documenting the bird life. The information they gather contributed to numerous journal articles and scientific studies. He continued this work in expeditions to the offshore islands of Aotearoa, New Zealand, in his beloved home-built yacht, Torore, until 1999, where he was lost at sea with his vessel off the Antipodes Islands. Captain Gerry Clark was an accomplished mariner who sailed on a wide range of vessels, including research ships, fishing boats and yachts. Totodore was the second yacht he built, and he designed it to survive in the stormiest seas. In the in the expedition prospectus, he wrote, "In order to obtain accurate qualitative data showing seasonal variations and to survey islands which are at best only occasionally accessible, much time is required, and this fact indicates the need for a small, inexpensive expedition with considerable self-sufficiency and staying power. Such an expedition requires a small, rugged, and seaworthy vessel, well equipped for exploration in difficult and often unsurveyed waters, with the ability to land a shore party with survival gear on exposed and weather-beaten islands." And this is his route that he took around the southern Pacific. In 2017, Gerry's daughter Elsa donated his archives and related objects to the New Zealand Maritime Museum. The collection comprises approximately 6,000 items, including 4,000 colour slides, densely detailed journals, correspondence, and expedition reports. There are ship's logs, manuscripts, loose photographs, audio cassettes, transcripts, bird counts and notebooks, and published books. There's even a letter in a bottle. He's simultaneously made draft and duplicate copies of his outward correspondence, as well as journal entries and scientific note-takings. The collection is an archivist's dream, with a full narrative chain and frequent direct linkages between items. The collection shows Clark to be an astute amateur scientist, collaborating strategically to study seabirds and indicators of the Southern Ocean ecological health. There are many examples of endorsements, requests, thanks from scientists, researchers globally, which illustrate his network of collaborations and the focus and rigor of his scientific contributions. The collection not only captures the courage, sense of adventure and scientific aptitude of Clark and his colleagues, but also provides a reference point to measure change in seabird populations. It's a stunning example of a rigorous engagement with marine science, reflected in a maritime museum collection, and we offer it to explore for further study through the museum collection. A dedicated network of individuals worked for years to sustain the expeditions, providing time, money, and expertise to support the project. Friends, family, ornithologists from around the world, local residents, museum curators, and scientists at remote research bases were all involved, but it all pivoted on the skill and dedication of Gerry Clark. 3 anecdotes highlight what he achieved. In 1984, Anthea Goodwin and Julia von Meyer, as well as Gerry, located a colony of blue petrels on the highest point of Cape Horn Island, Chile, in terrible weather. Verification of the bird's taxonomic identity required the capture and measurement of the birds, which only returned to the land at night. While using a mist net to catch petrels arriving at the cliff edge burrows, they were almost blown off the top of the cliff. Accessing the island, their inflatable dinghy frequently overturned, tipping them into the icy waters as they struggled to get from Totodore to the rocky shore and back. From Clark's journal entry on the 6th of April 1984, every landing and embarkation had been a worrying and uncomfortable traumatic experience. But back in the more friendly world of our tent, in the warming glow of a small hurricane lamp, we measured our blue petrel. A very pretty little bird, he was rather lively and bit Anthea vigorously, drawing blood. We then deloused him, put him to bed in a sack in the porch of the tent to await having his photograph taken in the morning. Another major study was carried out at South Georgia Island. Clark wrote, "Of all the places I have visited during the Totodore exhibition, South Georgia stands out as the one I love the most. The goal was to count the chicks of both wandering albatross and king penguins at all the known colonies, except the wanderers at Bird Island, which were monitored by the British Antarctic Survey. Visiting the different colonies involved a complete circumnavigation of South Georgia and trips to several outer islands. The study was carried out in collaboration with the 3 scientists overwintering on Bird Island. The penguin chicks were observed for several days before counting began to identify behavior which may affect the counts. For example, the chicks huddled together in bad weather and spread out when it was fine. Blizzards stopped work as the birds simply couldn't be seen. It took 2 months to undertake, and the 3 largest penguin colonies had to be left for the following year. At Cape Rosa, they accounted the wandering albatross chicks from the small colony first seen and eaten by Ernest Shackleton and the crew of the James Caird in 1916 on their epic journey. A pair of albatrosses had just one chick, which stays on the nest for up to 9 months. The nests were wildly dispersed over rugged terrain and difficult to spot. This required a totally different methodology to penguin counting. The bird count to be requested by John Croxall, who was the head of conservation biology at the British Antarctic Survey and chair of the Global Seabird Programme. In a letter, Croxall summarises the value of Clark's work. Over the 2 periods, Gerry Clark and the Totara have made a very significant contribution to our knowledge of South Georgia. We hope that these achievements will be met by the recognition they deserve. A total of 56,000 king penguin chicks was counted, confirming these colonies contained about 60% of the South Georgia population, and thus emphasising both the magnitude of the task and the importance of it being undertaken. After the epic first expedition, Clark focused on facilitating seabird studies on the offshore islands of New Zealand. It was noted in his obituary in the Southern Bird magazine, Clark used his yacht and expertise to support volunteer and student researchers with limited budgets studying little-known species of seabirds. He thus provided opportunities for many conservation-minded individuals to make a contribution to projects that were not a priority for the government. Several of these expeditions were to the Antipodes Islands, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, to investigate breeding populations of various populations of seabird. Because of their significance, the seabirds have since been designated an important bird area by BirdLife International. The work done by Clark and his colleagues contributed to this recognition of the archipelago's significance. This included the expeditions in 1994, 95, and the final tragic voyage in 1999 when Totara was lost at sea. Digitisation has been happening in earnest at New Zealand Maritime Museum since January 2020, funded by a major grant by the New Zealand Lottery Commission and with a dedicated team recruited for the work. Our process is to identify subsets of the collection, either by topic or object type, and sequence these subsets by a range of priority factors. The Gerry Clark collection was one of the first digitised due to its significant value to research and science. Today you can browse the whole Clark collection of almost 6,000 records on the museum's collection online site, as well as through the ICMM Global Portal. We are further seeking to share this rich collection on other portals, such as the UNESCO Memory of the World and any others that may make this collection accessible. This collection, which so thoroughly documents Clark's Southern Ocean voyaging and scientific exploits, represents a benchmark of seabird populations across a wide expanse of the Southern Ocean in the 1980s and 90s. Recently digitised and published online, it is now more accessible than ever before to assimilate into longitudinal scientific studies on the condition and changes of ecology in the Southern Ocean, with seabird populations as the indicator. We welcome any and all inquiries into use and utility of this data and will be happy to assist with this or any of other of the museum records. In honour of the adventurer, sailor and citizen scientist Gerry Clark, we hope this has given you a taste of his ambitions, bravery and legacy and the impact that one individual can make to our overall scientific knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vincent. If you don't mind, I would like to skip about the question times, but you are mostly welcome to ask Vincent about any questions about this session. So let's back to this 5,000